everyone, and welcome to this edition of Amateur Golf Talk Live. I'm your host, Shan Coughlin, here with a very special guest, Coastal Carolina University's head women's golf coach, Miss Katie Quin. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. I'm glad we went. I had the memo on the hair, so I'm glad we had the same hair day.
That was good.
We're coordinating colors. You never want to clash with your guests. For those of you watching us on the golfdirector.com TV tab, those of you who are listening will just have to catch it later on YouTube or something. But I was doing a little research. I mean, we've known each other for a while now, but I have to say I had not read your bio, in detail until recently. Don't look mine up. It's not that impressive. But yours, however, is. So in your 7th year at Coastal, we were just talking, you either win or come in second of the Big South Championship, so this is a good year. This is the win year.
Yes, it started in 2009 with a win, and it's been on the odd years, so hopefully we don't get overconfident knowing we have that in the bag, but I think we've got a great chance.
Well, I'll tell you something that can give you a little confidence. You have a freshman phenom on the team this year, or at least, I'm not a collegiate athlete of any kind, but someone who has already made freshman of the week 3 times in one season. She's doing very well. I'm talking about Malene. I want to say her name right. Malene Hansen.
Yep, Malene. I can't say her middle name. Hansen.
Crowball, maybe?
So, there's one of those mysterious Danish letters that we don't say too well.
But yes, from Denmark.
Mm-hmm.
So how did this come about?
It was actually real fortunate. I was in Germany at a tournament, and she caught my eye. She did a few things that most 17-year-olds can't do around the greens. It was some wedges, and I was fortunate enough to start emailing with her, and 2 months later I hired a Danish assistant coach, and we brought her on a visit, and the rest will hopefully be a lot of great history.
Yeah, it looks like it. That was going to be one of my questions. You have 7 girls on the team right now, 3 of which are not from the U.S., and so we were talking about some of the good trips you get to take, right?
Yeah, it's not a bad way to spend the summer touring Europe looking for more shots.
Right. Shants, as in Chanticleers. That's what we call them here. Coastal Carolina being in Conway, South Carolina. Now, the station has reached, thegolfdirector.com has reached 172 different countries. So if you are from Denmark right now listening to us, from Germany, or from Mexico, you might hear a name you recognize because you have girls from those 3 countries on the team.
Frida from Mexico, Frida Castillo, I was actually fortunate enough to see her play in San Diego a really long time ago, and she was, I don't know, maybe 13 or 14 years old, and the name stuck in my head. And then when I got the job here at Coastal, Scott Schob up at the Greg Norman Academy called me and said he had a girl from Mexico that's supposed to be quite the stick and need to check it out. I said, what's her name? I said, you got to be kidding me. Like, I know that kid.
Wow.
And so that worked out really well that she got to come here for a year and study and train with Scott. And it was an easy transition to come to Coastal.
Absolutely. And then from Germany, is it Lena?
Lena Scheffner. And she's quite a player. She's 69th in the world rankings right now for the for everybody, and I believe she's dropped a little bit, but she's still I believe right around 70 or 80 in college golf rankings right now. She won the last tournament in Augusta State.
I was just going to say, coming off a career round, second best in Coastal history, and she shot a low 65 in the first round, I believe.
Malene shot the 65, actually.
Sorry.
And but Lena came back with a 68 in the final
That's
round
what it was.
And beat Malene by 1, actually.
Oh, wow.
So they were tied. It was kind of nerve-wracking for a coach. They were tied on the 18th tee box, and Lena made a birdie, and Malene lipped out from about 8 feet for birdie and to tie, but it was great. It was great for both of them.
You say it's tough for a coach. I would think I would be sitting
fun.
pretty. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, I knew nothing terrible could happen. I felt pretty good about our chances of getting the individual and the team win, but you definitely don't have favorites. I wanted them both to win so bad, but I was thrilled for Lena, and she actually missed I don't want to embarrass her, but she missed about a 2-footer on her very first hole to make a double, and so proud of her, though. She, like as she'll say, she's like, all right, I put my pants on and told myself to suck it up, and she had a great day from there. Obviously
did. So this month, the Lady Shants have placed very well. Earlier in the month, 5th place finish at the Bay Area Intercollegiate. Is that right? And then first place in the I did have the Lena shooting that 65. But that was it Briar?
And Briars Creek was
Briars
just,
Creek
we just
was
got
just-
home yesterday.
Yep, tied for 6th. Great event.
Yes.
Your alma mater was there.
No,
No? Oh.
actually, we saw Florida State. We
Florida
saw
State.
back at their home tournament.
Okay.
We played them. We beat them by 1. So
All right.
that was, the girls could they could eat dinner that night.
Oh,
But,
there
but
you
the Florida Gators were at they were at
The
Briars
Gators,
Creek.
sorry.
and,
We're in South Carolina,
I
so
know,
those
I know.
Florida teams are all kind of the same.
I
But
know.
no, you are a Florida State alum. You are a Florida State alum. Played a lot and was on the NCAA All-Star team that got to play over in Asia. What was that like?
That was unbelievable. That was quite an experience. We
And
went.
let me let everyone know, she was only one of 10 NCAA players to get to go.
That was fun.
Yeah.
There were 10 of us, and we left from Los Angeles. We toured Korea, Thailand, and Japan was the biggest part. That was
Okay.
about 2 weeks of the trip, and stayed a lot on Army bases and Navy bases over there, and played a lot of golf, met a lot of great people, and had a lot of interesting food, and it was quite an experience.
Anything you'd rather not ever eat again?
There were some raw things I wasn't terribly comfortable with. There was some tongue, and there were some. But overall, it was definitely wouldn't have passed that up for anything.
But so I bring that up, and I kind of jumped around a little bit. But when people think of women's golf, sometimes I think it gets pushed down a little bit. I mean, we look at the PGA Tour, and even the LPGA Tour is almost like second fiddle. But there's some great opportunities for these girls that are playing golf at a very high level, and a lot of travel can be involved, and a lot of other things. You played on several tours when you came out, and now coached for Florida State for a couple years, right? Even did some recruiting, and now are coaching at Coastal. And I think there's just a lot of good opportunities that don't get talked about.
No, there definitely are. There's, the women's golf is coming along quite nicely, and due to kind of some of this Asian explosion, the Japan LPGA's come along, the Korean LPGA, and then obviously their top players are coming over to play in the States on the LPGA as well, and then the Symetra Tour, which is the equivalent of the web.com,
Right.
the feeder. And, they have the ability to actually gain their tour cards off the Symetra Tour, or gain some access to the final stage of qualifying schools. So there's definitely, it's growing. There's some more opportunities. We have one player who's playing on the Ladies European Tour, their Access Series right now. She graduated a few years ago. And we've got 2 players that graduated just 2 years ago, Brittany Henderson and Jessica Alexander, playing on the Symetra Tour. So they actually have a tournament. They're starting tomorrow. So.
Oh, wow. So now how do you keep up with everybody? Because you not only have your current players, but you're keeping up with some of the past players. You have 7 years under your belt now. So
Yeah,
just to hear at Coastal.
Oh, yeah, the time at Coastal, and then I was fortunate enough to coach some pretty special players at Florida State as
Right.
well, and I take a ton of pride in any of them that have come through here. It's a lot of fun to keep up with all of them. I've caddied for a former player at FSU 2 summers ago in the U.S. Open,
Nice.
and she wants me back at the qualifier this year in May, so hopefully we can get her back in there, and obviously I'll be just a super proud mama of my cubs if I can get some shots into the Open this summer.
Absolutely. That would be so cool. And, of course, one of the more famous shant golfers is not female, Dustin Johnson. We'd be remiss without bringing him up, doing very well now. And I'm trying to think of the year he graduated. You would have been there.
Actually, I think I was not here.
Okay, not
while
yet.
Dustin, I think graduated 2007.
Yes,
and I
okay.
started 2009. So.
All right, so a little bit after
Just missed
Dustin,
him a little bit, but
some very good players. And then you brought up Brittany, and she was quite decorated.
Yes.
Here. So we talked a little bit about the Big South, and like I said, in your last 6 years, on the odd years you've won, and on the even years, just didn't come in second like last year. But from the Big South tournament, y'all will then go to play at the regional NCAAs, correct? And then what do you need to do there to make it to the NCAA championship?
Well, there's four regionals, and the top 6 teams out of each region, they advanced to the national championship. We advanced in 2011. We were playing in Daytona, and we were fortunate enough to finish 4th down there to make the national championship. So we are really, really ready and determined to give it our best shot this year.
Well, with 3 seniors, 3 juniors, and that I'll call her the phenom freshman. You're certainly poised. So, but at the end of this year, does that mean you lose 3 top players?
We do. We lose 3 seniors this
Yep.
year, 2 that have been a pretty big staple in the lineup the last couple years. But we also have 3 pretty impressive signees coming in for next year. One of them I can't officially talk about.
Okay.
One will be a transfer, and the other one is a freshman that'll start from the Czech Republic, and she's a very decorated European player and the #1 player in the Czech. So we won't miss too much of a beat. Obviously, it always is. It's pretty devastating losing that kind of experience and the leadership that Frida and Emmy have. But these young kids are coming in with a lot of experience behind them.
Well, we talked about the non-U.S. players. Let's talk a little bit about the U.S. players. Give some props to a somewhat local girl, Emmy, you mentioned, from Johns Creek, Georgia. So that's only a state away. Nadia from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. So with all the PA folks down here, she's kind of like a local.
She is, yep.
And then Marissa's from California. So, wow.
Well, I actually played my high school golf in California. My parents and my sister still live out there near Sacramento. So it was actually the club that Marissa plays out of. I had some old friends that played out of there, and her name kept coming up, and then some of my buddies kept mentioning her name as well and what a hard worker she was, and came from a great family. So we had her come on a visit. She played at Furman in a big AJGA and drove over afterwards to come visit us. And luckily, she fell in love with us as much as we were in love with her. So she's been a great addition.
Well, there you go. So if I'm a parent of a pretty good female golfer, I'm hearing play some good tournaments, let the coach know where you're going to be, come see the school, or else make sure her friends know who you are.
I tell you what, it's getting so competitive. There's so many good girls out there now, obviously all over the world, but just as much correspondence as you can have with a coach, and definitely get on campuses to go visit, have some interaction with the coaches and the players. That's, I think, the only way that you can really know in your heart, when you found the right fit. And obviously it's just as big of a decision for us to invest, a scholarship and the time and money in a kid for 4 years, but it's also, a huge investment on their part as well. They only get to go to college once, so we like it to be a great fit on both ends.
Well, and you bring up an interesting point, scholarships, because you are investing some money into the girls. And I have a athlete as well. One of my sons is looking to play a sport in school, and what we keep hearing is that the scholarships are so hard to come by. They keep getting cut. Is that true in golf as well, or not as much?
Not as much, fortunately. On the women's side, we're allowed 6 scholarships. The men are 4.5. So it's very tight. I mean, we don't, obviously most golf teams carry, 8 to 11 players. So obviously not everybody's going to be on a full ride or on maybe any. Right. But it's still there, but it's definitely getting very competitive.
Now that's actually opposite what I would have thought. You just said the women have 6 and the men have 4.5. Now, how did that work?
That's every sport. If you go down, volleyball or their equivalent, soccer, tennis, all of those, the men have less in actually each sport. That's kind of a Title IX, a Title IX issue with scholarships.
Had no idea. And now with those 6, if I'm understanding correctly, like you said, you don't have to give 6 full. You can give 12 halves or however it adds up to 6, right?
Certain sports, football, basketball, some sports are what they call a head count sport. So you're either on all or nothing. And golf happens to be an equivalency sport, so we can chop up our 6 scholarships however we see fit. There
you go. Well, interesting, because like I said, in just getting started on this process, it's always good to have some of those hints, and I guess soccer must be an equivalency sport too.
I think it is.
Yeah,
it can be overwhelming. It can.
Yes, it can. Yes, it can. And he's only in 8th grade. So, but it sounds like you saw some of your folks even in their early years. So
we have a girl coming on campus next week who's she's in 9th grade, and she's already super pumped about Coastal, and we're excited about her. And there's a couple more that are coming in that graduate in 2018. We get emails from. I got an email from a 2025 a few weeks ago.
2025. What grade is that?
Didn't even know she knew how to write yet. So you just, I guess you can never start early enough. But I like to slow it down a little bit more than that.
At least high school, right? Or 8th grade. So what is it like for an athlete on campus? Like, what is their typical day? I mean, obviously you're here with us. It's the afternoon. I assume you have practice soon.
Normally I would be at practice right now. I actually gave the girls the afternoon off. Some the weather didn't look too good, and they're actually really tired right now. So they
from
needed.
that event, yeah.
We've had 3 events in 2.5 weeks, and leave again Saturday for Jacksonville. So they needed a little more time to catch their breath and catch up on homework. But generally they go to workouts 3 mornings a week at 7. And then they go to class from 8 or 9 until noon, sometimes 1.
Right.
And then we practice from about 2 to 5 or 6 in the evenings. And then we practice Saturday mornings, and Sundays are off.
Are off. That's quite, unless you're at an event.
Unless we're at a tournament.
Right. And how many tournaments do y'all play in a year about?
You're allowed 24 competitive days of competition. So we normally break them into probably 10 tournaments.
Okay.
Some 3-day tournaments, some 2-day tournaments.
And do you have to include the Big South Championship, the NCAAs, in those two? Or
not
is
the
that,
not the postseason. No.
All right.
Conference counts, but then not the postseason.
So 3 workouts a week, practice 6 days a week, school.
Lots of studying, lots of homework.
Yes.
Our team GPA, we've been over a 3.5 since I've been here, and
wow,
closer to a 3.6 or 3.7 actually most of the time. So they do really well.
That's
in
impressive.
School.
When do they eat?
I don't know.
I'm thinking about food. I'm like, holy cow.
You know, I know when I eat too much, but they pack a lot of snacks.
All right. But in dinner, I guess they all after practice.
They like to eat.
Dinner.
I know that.
Well, you know, athletes they need to that much working out. Well, gosh, what last question before we wrap up? What's been the most enjoyable part of coaching for you?
I don't. There's a lot. I'd be pretty brokenhearted if I couldn't do this anymore. It's pretty fulfilling all around. But I'd say watching them grow up and improve, and not just golf, but everything. I mean, every kid that I've had come through from freshman year till they graduate, you notice some pretty significant changes, and you really do watch them become, young women and ready for the real world, whether it's golf or get a master's or start a family, or I have going to a former player's wedding in about a month and a half, and that's a lot of fun. And
I would bet
lots of former players would be at that, and I've got a couple that are already gotten their masters, and they make a lot more money than I do, and they're moving on with things and doing. I've got one in law school about to finish up in less than a year, so it's really exciting to watch them. Such a small percentage are going to make millions of dollars playing professional sports, but to watch them really grow and develop and get to really be a huge part of that, the pretty precious 4 years that they have is a lot of fun. It
sounds like it. Well, thank you so much for coming on and joining us and sharing a little bit about Coastal Carolina women's golf with our listeners. We try to keep all topics here that people might be interested in, and so I would just welcome everyone to check out Coastal Carolina's women's golf program and all the sports programs at Coastal on their website, coastal.edu, still right?
And go CCUsports.com.
GoCCUsports.com, and you can also keep track of live scoring at events and anything else we want to tell them about.
Yeah, there's golfstat.com and birdiefire.com do a great job of following women's golf and men's golf as well, doing live scoring at almost every single event between the two sites. It's a lot of fun. All right, well, one last task before you go. Can you hand me that white piece of paper? The other one. Oh. All right. Well, we want to thank Miss Katie Quin from CCU's women's golf program, head golf coach, and we hope that we will make this more of a habit. Please do. If you will. Thanks for having me. This edition of Amateur Golf Talk Live has been produced and broadcast by the Zeus Radio Network for thegolfdirector.com. When visiting The Golf Director, be sure to check out our featured golf course pages where you'll find up-to-date information about course conditions, specials, and much more. And if you need help with your next golf vacation, and tweet #JustCallDave, and he'll find you, or give us a call on a real phone, 844-GO-GOLF1. That's 844-464-6531. All of our programming is archived for listening and viewing on demand, so to catch up on a show you might have missed, click on the TGD Radio and TGD TV tabs in the menu at thegolfdirector.com. We're now available on over 1 billion devices at iTunes, Audio Realm, TuneIn, YouTube, Ustream, Roku, Blueberry, and on the Myrtle Beach Golf app. This is Shan Coughlin, and on behalf of my very special guest, Miss Katie Quin, today from CCU, go CCUsports.com. We appreciate you tuning in. Please don't go anywhere. There's more TGD golf and news and information coming up next.